Wasabi guys, coming back at you with another top 10 commander video here. This time we have the 10 best wizards in the commander format. And before I get into this, let me just tell you guys right here, right now, a lot of these cards on this list are not just here because they're wizards, they're here because they have some sort of good synergy here, especially considering the upcoming Commander 2017 deck where we will be getting Grixis wizards. So keep that in mind here. Things like Derevi, Yidris, Riku are not going to be on this list because while they are really good cards in this format and they happen to be wizards, they don't necessarily synergize well with the overall archetype, whereas a lot of these have some sort of synergy, whether they're in the right colors or they just do something that kind of meshes well with the rest of what the tribe does really well. Number 10 here we have Nekusar the Mindraiser. Now, obviously because he's Grixis, that's the first reason why he's on this list. He's only number 10 though, because I feel that he doesn't really do a whole lot. He's mainly just a target there. Right off the bat, if we are getting a Grixis Wizards deck, this is definitely going to be something I will consider putting in there. Very cool, basically a combination of a Howling Mine and Underworld Dreams on a creature. So right there you have a lot of options. You can go straight hate, or you can go more of a group hug strategy where you try to hate on them at the last minute to try to win the game. That's kind of how you play with Nekusar. But really, I mean, Grixis colors, that's just amazing right there. And he's a very awesome build around commander. Very unique strategy. Number 9 is Venser Shaper Savant. ETBs, you get to return a target permanent or a spell to its owner's hand, which is incredible. There are some cards in this format that are uncounterable, and this is one of the easiest ways to get around that. You just basically bounce it back to their hand. Also pretty much just works as another counter spell, very similar to like a Remand. Even more powerful if you're able to flicker it with something like a Deadeye Navigator. But overall, in terms of just utility, having the flash as well is insane. So powerful right there, and it's going to really do well in decks like Brago, Rune of the Hidden Realm, decks where you can constantly flicker it. It's going to be abused, but even just Wizard Tribal it's just great utility for that tribe. Number 8 is Niv-Mizzet the Firemind. Whenever you draw a card, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and you can tap him to draw a card, which will then deal a damage to target creature or player. So it's very abusable. Obviously, with something like Curiosity, Ophidian Eye, Mind Over Matter, you can definitely find a way to win very easily with this type of commander. All you have to do is manipulate the untaps. Suddenly you've won the game either through damage or the fact that you're probably also running a Laboratory Maniac in your deck. So, very cool. Definitely Izzet colors, works really well. There's a ton of wizards within these colors as well, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to slot in very easily into a Grixis build. Number 7 is Vendilion Clique. Very powerful 1v1, quite possibly the most powerful 1v1 commander in Dual Commander right now, and for that main reason right there, it makes this list, but it's also great utility against whoever's going to get hated on the most at the table. You're usually going to have a very good chance of slowing them down here. And even though they do get to draw a card to replenish their hand size, you do take out what's most likely the best card in their hand. If you make Vendilion Clique your commander, you're also going to take advantage of ETBs and flicker effects so that you can constantly just police their hand and make sure that they don't have anything good in their hand at all. And that's usually how you plan on playing with Vendilion Clique. Also, you're just playing good value control around it, just to supplement. Number 6 is Teferi, Mage of Zhalfir. Yet another flash creature here. Utility is insane. Basically, your opponents can only cast spells at sorcery speed, and you get to flash creatures into play, which is basically 1/2 of what Prophet of Krufix was, with the addition of forcing your opponents to only play at sorcery speed, which is absolutely insane. It is 3 blue, so it is a bit more specific to blue. However, I feel that it's not that big of a deal trying to get the right mana fixing to definitely play this guy. He's incredible. It's everything you want to do with wizards. You want to control, and you want to be able to flash into play your other wizards pretty easily. Definitely fits well into this tribe, and it's very good. It's a very good hate card. Number 5 is Azami, Lady of Scrolls. Now, as of the making of this video, before we know anything from the Commander 2017 deck, Azami is hands down the best wizard tribal commander right now. being able to tap a wizard without needing any haste enablers is absolutely ridiculous. It combos so easily because of this too. All you really need to do is find a way to get to like a mind over matter, and suddenly you just untap enough to play Azami, and you suddenly win the game because you have Lab Maniac in your deck. But even without that, every single turn, it's just wait till your opponent's end step, tap all your wizards, draw a ton of cards, just repeat the process until you have a win con, and you have won usually pretty easily. Obviously, combos very well with Paradox Engine, basically turning every single wizard into, like a 5-card draw cantrip, or even more than that. So definitely very powerful as a commander. One of the best commanders in the format, I would have to say. So, and usually whenever there's a synergy, whenever any card mentions wizard, it's going to be pretty good in Wizard Tribal. And having the ability to just tap any wizard to draw a card is insane. Card draw is one of the best things that you can put into control, and having both an insane amount of card draw with your control, that's a good sign. Number 4, I have Snapcaster Mage. Absolute powerhouse in Modern for a long time. However, in Commander, he's just as powerful and just as capable of making your control deck even better. Works very well in graveyard-based decks such as Tasigur, the Golden Fang, as well as just Wizard Tribal in general, or even just Aloro, just for your good basic control builds. Getting a second use out of any instant or sorcery from your graveyard is always going to be good. And yet again, another flash wizard, and being able to deal with problems head on, while also being able to do it affordably and at the best possible timing. Whether it's a counter spell, a cantrip, a removal spell, cyclonic rifts, whatever it is, it's always going to be giving you a lot of value. Just 2 extra mana in addition to paying the actual mana cost of that card. That's a good value right there. And in addition, you also get the body to block or whatever you need to do, tap to draw cards. You also get that body there as well. Number 3, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Just insane. Let's just forget the fact that he does flip into a Planeswalker here for a second. He's 2 mana, and he taps to draw you a card, and you have to discard a card. So that right there synergizes with so many different decks, not just wizards, but graveyard-based decks like the Mimeoplasm, Tasigur, any deck where you need to manipulate what's going into your graveyard. If you're playing blue, you should consider playing Jace Vryn's Prodigy just for that alone. But then eventually he does flip into a Planeswalker, and what you get is great abilities here. The plus is, it's pretty weak. It's not going to do too much, but really the minus is where it is. You're going to get to recast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. You do have to pay its mana cost, but anytime you can recast something from your graveyard is always going to be good. That's why I mentioned Snapcaster. And the ult is basically just going to mail out your opponent if you get to it, but usually the ult is not relevant. More often than not, you're just going to benefit off of Jace just getting you an instant or sorcery back so you can recast it. Number 2 is Baral, Chief of Compliance. 1v1, this guy is insane. 1-for-1 removals and, counter spelling, getting card draw off of that. You're just accelerating your deck. He's incredibly cheap and, very affordable. Definitely allows you to maneuver around him, whether you want to make room for control spells, removal spells, your tutors, whatever you want to use. It's so much easier to do that when your commander only costs 2 mana, and also makes your instants and sorceries cost 1 less. So you have that huge benefit to play a ton of removal spells, a ton of counter spells, a ton of answers when they all cost 1 less. That's insane. And over the course of a game, you don't really realize how much mana you're saving just playing a guy like this. And while he is smaller scaled and a lot of people might take him for granted, he definitely is deserving of the number 2 spot here just because of that utility. He's an auto-include. There's no way that you're going to benefit more without playing him in any sort of, control-based deck that plays blue. He's definitely going to give you that advantage of card draw. Number 1, I have Glenalendra Archmage. Without a doubt, the best wizard in the Commander format. whenever you play her, whenever anybody plays her, the game becomes, I have to find a way to deal with Glenalendra, or I can't do anything I want to do. Yes, you can still cast your creature spells, and you could definitely try to bait them into countering some non-creature spells you don't really feel are necessary for your specific strategy. However, it's always that threat. I'm going to have to worry about them countering just any non-creature spell I play, and there are decks that can definitely abuse Glenalendra, whether it's by flickering, whether it's playing +1/+1 counters to negate the -1/-1 counters. Either way, there are decks that can manipulate this and synergize with Persist so that Glenalendra's going to stay on the field for the longest possible time, and it's most likely going to win you or whoever's playing it. It's going to win them the game, and it's going to be very easy to control games when you have the ability to just pay 1 blue and say, no, you're not going to be playing a Cage Sun, you're not going to be playing a Necropotence, you're not going to be playing a counter spell, you're not going to be doing this. And it's so difficult to deal with this because stifle effects are not all that powerful in this format. They sometimes get taken for granted, but they're not all that significant. So finding a way to deal with Glenalendra is always a pain in the ass because straight up counter spells don't interact with her, while she can interact with pretty much any other counter spell. So it's insane. Definitely the best wizard in the format. Fits into every single blue deck that I can think of, although she may not be the most optimal choice of counter spells. She definitely fits into so many decks. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for my top 10 list of wizards in the Commander format. Let me know what your top 10 are. Let me know if you have any suggestions or feedback. Let me know how pumped up you are for Commander 2017. Anyway, guys, I'm going to be signing off here. You have a wonderful day.